All right. Hey, Trauma League. It's Shonda. So I thought that the best way to communicate with everyone that I couldn't get together with via the meeting we had last week was to do a short video to let people know kind of more about the initiative that I am asking for help on and just kind of tell you how it came to be. I talked with Donna and she had questions. And as I was talking to her, I realized that there are probably several people, if you weren't able to come attend the meeting via phone or in person, who would have the same questions. So I'm hoping that you can spare a few minutes and I will answer as many questions as I can think to answer. And then if you still have a desire to ask more questions or get with me, we can get together one on one. So, one, I want to start by saying Happy New Year to everyone. Two, I want to say that I understand that everyone is extremely busy. I know that I am. And for most of us, that's good news. So many of us are entrepreneurs in our, doing our own thing, building our own networks, or not even networks, businesses. So I'm saying firstly that I acknowledge that. But we have a tremendous opportunity to make an impact in a community that many of us serve, either directly or indirectly, that I thought this would be a great opportunity to get people together to collaborate on this. So, long story short, last year, 2019, I got involved with an organization called Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. And I did a couple of things with them, and they had a vigil here in Cincinnati. And when I went to that vigil, I met a gentleman named Ronald Hummons, who was just someone who was highlighting a couple of books that he wrote, both about his own experience with trauma. And he shared the story of his son who grew up in very horrific conditions with a drug addicted mother, drug addicted and abusive mother, drug addicted and abusive stepfather. Ron and his mother both attempted to get full custody of his son throughout his life. The system failed, and his son in 2015 would go on to complete suicide by cop, at the same time killing a Cincinnati police officer. Throughout that process, and looking back after that happened, Ron was looking at how the system had failed his son in numerous ways, and then began to realize that so many Black children specifically were falling through the cracks of many systems, and that what they were in fact experiencing were PTSD and PTSD symptoms. So he knew that was an issue, and he knew that it needed to be addressed. If you think about the opioid crisis and the state of emergency that was declared for the opioid crisis, he looked at that and noticed that there was kind of almost an immediate feedback, immediate resources in regards to money and other things that were being given to this opioid crisis. Well, he also noticed that the opioid crisis disproportionately impacts middle class white people. And so while it was an effort to help address this very important issue, it was leaving out an entire demographic of people, in this case, Black kids, who are suffering from PTSD symptoms and trauma at epidemic rates and levels, but no one is doing anything about it. So he kind of took that initiative and said, well, what would it be like for Ohio to declare a state of emergency on childhood trauma so that the kids who are being impacted by this can get the help that they need? So that was kind of where he was when I met him. We connected and we just talked, and he realized that I have an understanding and a language around trauma that he does not. So it was, what does it look like to partner? He's saying, I know there's an issue and this needs to be addressed, but I also know that you have the language to communicate trauma in a way that I don't. So that's how Ron and I connected. And I think it's a fantastic idea because clearly I work in the trauma realm, and I am in and part of and service the communities that we're talking about. So he did a hunger strike last year. He's done several things, and in the beginning of December we went up to Columbus to talk to some representatives in the House of Representatives. We talked to several, and there was some interest, and then we got to Representative Manning and Representative West, who both had a bill that was in the process of being passed that dealt with mental health and suicidality. And so they are very supportive, and they're saying, hey, we will sponsor this bill. So we left Columbus with them saying, great, write it up. And we both left like, whoa, that's awesome. But what? I don't know how to do that. So it was very overwhelming. But what I realized is I'm surrounded by people, awesome trauma people, education people, systems people, policy people who have the same passion that I do for helping children, helping people who understand trauma. And that's when I kind of sent out the call to say, hey, if you're interested and if you can spare the time and energy, can you help me do this? So essentially, I don't have a whole lot of this, and this. People are asking me really good questions, and those really good questions are letting me know that these are more answers I have to get. And so where we were on the meeting was a long version of what I just told you. And then those of us who participated, we thought about all of the various sectors that impact the children who are experiencing trauma, all the way from education to aesthetics and nutrition. You know, very little green space in these communities where these African American children and other underserved and vulnerable populations, but an emphasis on African American children are, you know, there's no green space, there's no healthy food, there are no water fountains, there are just kind of all of these different things. That's something to consider. So we went through and we came up with these sectors. I've sent those out. What I'm asking people to identify is, what sector do you feel you have good information or what are working in that you can contribute? And pretty much what we're saying is, what are we asking for? This is the first step, whether it's the logical first step or not. Where we are is I'm asking people to help us be a think tank to, when these legislators say, well, what do you want? I want to be able to provide them, this is what we want. In order to do that, we're using the continuum of a care infographic and framework that SAMHSA uses. And so there's promotion and prevention and treatment and recovery. And we are going to say what policies, what services, and what resources are needed in each of the parts of the continuum for each sector that we listed. And so really, I'm just asking people right now, give us those ideas as specific as possible. And as we start putting them together and as we start writing it up, when we need to broaden things, we'll broaden it. When we need to kind of narrow it, we will narrow it. I am going to be working with people to help devise a good strategy for moving forward. You know, I've talked to part of the team who's going to help us mobilize the constituents and the people that we're in contact with every day. Start telling them about the initiative so they can start writing their legislators, so they can say, hey, if this happened, this is how this would impact my neighborhood, my child, my school. If we can get a lot of the organizations, the community health organizations on board to say, if this happened, this is how we could serve the people we serve better. So all of this is in the works, but it's all like this. And I'm working my best to kind of narrow it down and kind of ring it together and lead it in a way that makes sense. Every person that I've invited has a specific skill set, gift, understanding that can be valuable. I also understand, though, that we are extremely busy and we have a lot going on. Probably for the first time ever in private practice, I'm seeing 19 clients this week. That's a lot for me. And so I realize that as business is good, which is a good thing, that means time is more slim. So I have an understanding of how things are going and we're moving and we're shaking. But I also think that we have the opportunity to be a part of something that is so huge and so great to help so many children who need us. So I felt more than reading, this might have given you an idea of kind of how this came to be, who started it, where we are. I don't know what I don't know, but I'm surrounding myself with people who do know. So what I'm asking for is, please pick a sector. Please tell me how you can contribute. If you need more information or you want to talk one-on-one, let me know. But since I didn't have a chance to kind of talk to everyone individually, this was one way that I thought I could accomplish that in a relatively quick and easy way. If you've made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you. I love you. And I am so excited for the opportunity that's in front of us. And I want us to get it done. So I'll be reaching out to you with more information as I have it. And if you need anything, hit me up. Thanks.